Welcome to our guide on the fund establishment and execution workflow. Here I will guide you through the essential steps involved in creating and managing an alternative investment fund, or AIF, ensuring a comprehensive understanding of the process. To marry the visual aspect of this process, you should ideally have the document 3.10 called IWG Fund Establishment Process open, which is available on the library page of our website under Section 3. The document diagram is document 3.10. If necessary, pause this video and open the document first, and then press play again. Now that you have the document 3.10 open, let's continue to follow the path of the creation of the Alternative Investment Fund, or AIF. The point of departure is point 1. The client begins their engagement with an Introduction to Integer Wealth Global, or IWG, through either direct engagement with our team by email inquiry, or by introduction through one of our deal originators or introducers, or via our online Accelero platform, which access is available on our website, on the Applications page which is on the top left of our website's homepage. On to point 2. To begin with, we conduct a high-level assessment where we identify the client. Clients approach Integer Wealth Global for funding or investment through various channels. The process begins with a high-level process of identifying the client's financial and project needs, as also if they are compliant to the investment they require, such as the industry sector, the jurisdiction of their company, and also of their projects for which they require funding, the financial amount or quantum of that their company and projects require and duration of the investments, as also other peripheral requirements they may have. Point 3 is the next high-level assessment on the client's company and its operation and projects which require the investment funding. Our assessors evaluate project feasibility and viability, focusing on financial projections, return on investment, and the type of funding required. This assessment helps in determining the potential profitability of the investment. At point 4, we begin to determine what the client's investment fund structure would begin to look like and what outlines its purpose and operational framework. It details how the fund will invest in the client's companies and their projects, ensuring that we arrive at a clear understanding of the project investment distribution throughout the project lifecycle and what the client management strategies for the investment funding should look like. At point 5, a mandate proposal and quotation are prepared, illustrating the scope of work, costs, and timeframes. This proposal is essential for client engagement and sets the foundation for further discussions. This is then done in conjunction with several explanatory meetings to answer any questions that the client may have. At this point, it is also by now clearer to us at IWG what the client is able to sustain as investment and returns through the projects which they intend to fund through investments via their investment fund. At point 6, we conclude the explanatory exercise which is conducted to expand on costs of setup, post-fund registration fees, and timeframes to establishment and reaching funding targets as per the fund structure. This ensures that prospective clients understand the intricacies involved in establishing an investment fund, and thereby paving the way for informed decision-making. At point 7, the client is now required to complete the acceptance of the proposal mandate and the quote. Then the client issues IWG an email requesting the establishment of the fund and that the client accepts the costs, terms, and conditions set out in the fund establishment mandate, and so a formal agreement is reached. This step is crucial for moving forward with the fund establishment process. At point 8, IWG then sends the final fund establishment mandate via the IWG DocuSign platform to the client, who then signs the document electronically. As at this stage the client has accepted the terms of the mandate, the fund establishment invoice is issued. This formalizes the agreement and initiates the payment process, allowing the fund structure to be submitted for approval. It is at this point that all the serious work begins. Point 9 in the diagram simply illustrates that once payment has been confirmed, that a milestone has been achieved in the process. At point 10, IWG then acknowledges that the invoice payment has been received and the payment is divided and prepared to be paid forward to the several critical service providers to which the client's investment fund is dependent on being established. At point 11, all the work then begins. IWG secures time and resources and reserves these with the various service providers, such as the law firms processing the fund's legal processes, the relevant investment fund advisors who informs the destination stock exchange and then secure the availability and services of the fund's auditors and accountants. We engage and secure the asset managers, investment broker firms, the relevant regulators for the applicable jurisdiction, and the jurisdictional court for their costs. Here, the various AML, KYB, and KYC processes are conducted on the client, the destination jurisdiction, the investment fund, and the projects to which the fund will contain, as well as all UBOs for each component. The fund structure is then submitted to these service providers, advisors, and other stakeholders for approval. This step ensures compliance and sets the stage for the fund's operational readiness. This is the longest time frame of the entire investment fund establishment process. Once the client has been processed through the onboarding tasks in point 11, at point 12, IWG performs the administrative functions and makes payment to the service providers. This point also involves drafting related documents for fund operations and legal submissions. This phase is critical for ensuring all regulatory and legal requirements are met before fund operations begin. Point 13 is all about the fund structure. At this point, we begin preparing the IM, IOS, IOP dates, the NAV compilation, the IWF relation, the client relation, regulatory submissions, etc., all of which are required to prepare and establish the fund's readiness to begin operations. These submissions and recipient acknowledgments are key milestones, allowing IWG's clients and partners to proceed with the fund's establishment activities. For further information, abbreviation clarifications are available on our website in the Library section. In Section 3, Document Quote 3.27 IWC, Glossary of Funds and Technical Abbreviations. At point 14, the projects intended for the client's investment fund are scored for investment credibility. This is in cooperation with Standard & Poor's or S&P, who are the risk assessment agents for IWG and its clients. Any issues which arise from this task are then addressed, navigated, and mitigated together with the client to achieve investment grade of the projects. This ensures financial readiness for investor subscriptions. Similarly, at point 15, the entire investment fund is then rated again in collaboration with S&P, which includes the jurisdiction credibility assessment in which the client will execute the projects from their investment fund. At point 16, at this stage, the fund is then ready for signing off by the client, IWG, and all the service providers and stakeholders for final establishment. This is the next important milestone of the objective of investment fund creation. At point 17, the business case for each of the projects within the investment fund are set out and produced, which also begin the formation of the investment fund prospectus. This process involves multiple service providers. Once this is completed, these form the next vital milestone of the process. A noteworthy mention that at this point the client can already apply for advanced funding for their projects through an SBLC, should this be required. Point 18 is the notice of the establishment of the fund to the relevant jurisdictional legal process and relevant court, and includes the legal contracts for subscription and redemption contracts for investors and the client investment fund, as also any joint venture contracts required for specific partnership purposes. At point 19, the investment fund is now submitted to the relevant stock exchange for listing, and the application for its stock exchange, ISIN, International Securities Identification Number, Registration Number. Point 20 continues the IOM SOIS IP drafting and related documents for the fund operation, and once complete is again issued to the relevant court by the fund legal team for approval. At point 21, the reply and acknowledgement of and by the regulators to begin fund operations are issued to IWG and its stakeholders and related service providers. Point 22, the process has arrived at completion. Another primary milestone, as now the fund's bank accounts can be opened for both daily operations as also an account for the receiving of investment subscriptions. At point 23 and onward, the fund is now ready for subscription, where the licensed marketers and fund managers begin sourcing the investments for the fund. This process, although automated via the Accelero trademark platform, where such processes again include the validation of the now established bank account by the regulator. This is again another critical milestone. Point 24 is the initial offering period, IOP. This allows investors to subscribe to the fund. This period is crucial for accumulating the necessary capital to begin fund operations and achieve investment goals, where OP refers to the offering period. Brokers approach primarily institutional investors with mature investment appetites to ensure the fund is populated before listing, enhancing its market appeal. Point 25 is another milestone which is reached, as this is the onboarding of investors and their deposits into the now operational investment fund. Marketing efforts during the IOP aim to secure investment pledges. At point 26, the distribution assessment is completed and approved by the relevant regulator and fund manager, which determines the further distribution of capital into the fund's projects in accordance with the mandate. The IOP concludes with the issuance of notes to investors. This marks the official acceptance of funds, allowing the investment process to commence and the projects to receive necessary disbursements. At point 27, all operations and setup are now completed with all licenses and peripheral structures, and the fund begins to accept investment. This is a primary objective, as at this stage the fund is now fully operational. Operations begin with disbursements to projects through special purpose vehicles, SPVs, or directly, depending on the fund structure. These disbursements are allocated to projects within the Integer Wealth Project Register, ensuring efficient fund utilization. Point 28 is the ongoing management of subscription of investment into the fund. The fund structure includes key elements like IM, IOS, and IOP dates. These components are essential for maintaining transparency and ensuring all stakeholders are informed of the fund's progress. Point 29 is when the IOP concludes and the subscription notes are issued to the investors and the capital is officially accepted by the fund. From point 30 onward, the fund distributes capital to the client directly or through the client's SPV or whichever structure the fund has been designed to operate in. Insurances and ongoing risk management remains in this quadrant and may be relevant or irrelevant at the points 30 to 34, depending again on the design of the fund. Thank you for watching our video on the fund establishment and execution process. We hope this overview has provided valuable insights into the critical steps involved in managing an investment fund. We look forward to hearing from you. Goodbye for now and see you soon.